Have you any interest in introducing yourself at this point and participating in a way that would make you comfortable?
I'm not sure at this point, actually.
Okay,
Sorry.
then. I'll continue.
Maybe a little bit later.
I can read. I'm good. Let me tell you, before I tell you a little bit more about some of the other pieces, I'll tell you about the Brash Association. I was in a show in Arlington, Virginia, and Brash came through and wrote poems for the pieces in the show. So there was a poem for my piece, and I read it, and I thought, boy, this person nailed it. They nailed it. You know how it's like somebody says in a few words exactly what it is that you're trying to say. And she did. It was amazing. It was amazing. So I had a show, as I said, up in New York that opened in November. And I had invited her to come up to write for that show and do something with me, some collaborative type of thing. And it didn't work out. And so then when this came around, I invited her again, and she came to a different show I was having and looked at some of the work, and I guess felt that she could work with it. And then this is the poems that you see on the wall and on the cans were her idea of how to present them. And I went with it because I actually like the way they look next to the pieces. So, and to tell you the truth, I haven't had an opportunity to read all of them. Over the next few days, I'm going to be coming up and hopefully doing that. So anyway, so as this was going on, these pieces over here, these were done for the New York show. That one right there, the big, it's called Chestnut Brown because that's the name on one of the lids of the paint cans. You guys, just come on around, Go on around. The name right here on this lid is Chestnut Brown. And this was like Reclamation Tapestry number 8 at one point because I didn't know what else to call them. Until I think it might have been Brash who pointed that out, so I took the title. And that's the other thing I'll do, I'll steal anything. I mean, I will. I will. And then I'll take credit for it. But I don't think that that's unusual. I mean, there was Picasso who said a mediocre artist borrows, a great artist steals. He really said that. So I'll steal pretty much anything I think I can get away with. So these two pieces came about because, like I said, I was collecting paint cans, right? 800 and some paint cans. Where are you going to store these things? And all of them had paint in it, so I had to empty the paint out of each one of the cans. I had to dump it into cat litter. I had to mix it up, but I didn't realize that right away. So what I thought I would do is I would have these 55-gallon plastic trash cans in my studio, and I would dump the paint in there, and then I figured, and then I'd take it, and I shouldn't admit this, but I didn't do it because I couldn't end up moving the thing, but I was going to dig a giant hole in my woods. And that's what I was initially going to do, and I was going to dump the paint into the hole, thinking that then I could cover it up and nobody would know, and that maybe the leaves would turn these really wild colors. But I didn't do that, and the reason I didn't do that is because I walked into my studio one day, and my 55-gallon tub had split. And I walked in, and the paint my studio was 28 feet long, 14 feet high, 14 foot wide, and 7 feet of it was covered in paint that thick. And interestingly enough, it didn't flow all the way, it kind of stopped. So like there was sort of like it flowed into it tapered off, and you couldn't do anything with it. I mean, so I ended up putting heat on it and just letting it dry and staying away from it. And then I started peeling up sections, which of course, gives you a whole nother idea. I mean, boy, this will be great. I'm going to make stuff out of like hunks of paint. I tried that, it didn't really work out. And then I thought, all right, well, I make paint skins. All you guys, you leave a bucket of paint uncovered and then you get a skin on top. And you think, oh, I'm the first person to ever think of this. So that didn't work out either. But what happened is, so I'm storing the paint cans outside on sawhorses and boards. And I've got them stacked really high, and then as I take them into the studio to work on them, and I took I took the labels off of each can, and I rusted each can with muriatic acid, or the ones that were plastic, I painted with a metallic paint, and then hit that with muriatic acid. There's a lot of acid. Don't work in a closed space with muriatic acid. It will sear your lungs. I learned that. I wear a mask now, and I try to do it outside. Unless I'm in a hurry, of course. So anyway, so I'm stacking up these paint cans on this board, and this is a board that I use for other things. You can see that there's this house form here, and these little circles were from nipples that I had used for something else. This is a gun shape. You can see the gun handle and the trigger right there, right there, right there. And then these were frames, but I put it outside and I stacked the paint cans on it, and they were on there stacked really high and left for probably 2-3 months in the weather. It was time to do these cans, and I start bringing them into the studio, and as I take off the cans, I start to see these patterns, these circles from the rust, from the can. And I take the board into my studio, and I lean it against the wall, and I step back and I look at it, and I think, that's a piece. That's beautiful. I thought that was beautiful. I said, but it must be crazy. So, that's when you invite some of your artist friends over. You just say, what do you think? And see what they say. And almost to a person, it's like, wow, that's really nice. How'd you do that? I said, well, I took it outside, I put these cans on it, and then I rusted it, because I really, So what it was is it's just, it's the recognition a lot of times when things happen, the recognition that occurs. You're working on something, and something else is going on, and because you've been doing it and you're so intensely involved, and you glance over and you see something in it, and it may be inadvertent, but what it is that, it's a result of the process that you've been involved in for months. And something happens, and you recognize that something happened. And that, I think, is as valid a way to create as if you had done it intentionally. So I took it, and and then, of course, it became precious. So you have to frame it, right? I mean, initially what I wanted to do was I wanted to just screw it to the wall, polyurethane it, of course, and then so it doesn't, God forbid, that it should deteriorate or something. I mean, it's incredibly valuable now, right? It's a board. I mean, it's a piece of ply that I've been using as a table for 10 years, to spray paint on. But now, if you put anything on it, you can get sued.
Right. Tell me the price of this thing.
Well, I'm $4,000 maybe for this. But yeah, these are actually these are Westminster prices. The New York price for this is between $8,000 and $10,000. The same with that. But that's only if it sells. This doesn't happen a lot. But the gallery, once you've hit, what happens, and Margaret can test it, once you hit a certain point in sales, like you've sold for a certain amount, you can't drop your prices, because then that devalues whatever it was that you sold, on a fluke maybe, to somebody with a lot of extra disposable income who just basically messed you up for years to come.
And you've had that happen.
And I've had that happen, where somebody paid a ridiculous amount of money for a piece, and now, that created the market, and that created the value of the pieces, so that when things go for sale up in New York, that's $10,000. It's paint candid. It's rusted paint candids. You know? It's funny how many people say, well, I'm just going to go home and make one.